The scene opens in New York, in an elegant and modern neighborhood where the rhythm of ambition sets the tone for every street and every building. Towers of glass rise like monuments to success, their facades reflecting both the golden glow of sunrise and the relentless pace of those who live beneath them. Cafes overflow with hurried professionals, their laptops open beside half-drunk cappuccinos, while boutiques glimmer with the allure of exclusivity. In this setting, I walked daily, believing my life fit seamlessly within the pulse of the city. My routine was carefully balanced between endless corporate meetings that tested my endurance, dinners where the art of conversation was as strategic as any negotiation, and social gatherings that demanded a polished version of myself. Outwardly, I embodied control, elegance, and success. Yet beneath this apparent perfection, attention hummed like an invisible wire stretched too tight, threatening to snap at any moment. My name is Emma Lawson, and for years I believed my life was enviably stable, its foundation rooted in both personal devotion and professional triumph. At 35, I was known in my field for sharp intelligence, for creativity paired with discipline, and for an unwavering ability to deliver results under pressure. My professional persona was a fortress, precise, strategic, untouchable. But within that fortress existed a softer interior, a woman shaped by trust, by an instinctive openness that left her exposed to the people closest to her. This emotional transparency, which made me warm and approachable in friendships, was also my greatest weakness in love. My trust, once given, was absolute, and in Ethan, my husband, I had invested it fully, without hesitation, without doubt. Our marriage had always appeared strong to others, admired for its steadiness, our compatibility, and the rhythm we seemed to share. Friends saw us as an example, the kind of couple who managed to balance affection with ambition, intimacy with independence. And in truth, there was tenderness between us, comfort in our rituals, laughter woven into years of shared experiences. But marriages are not broken in a single moment. They fracture in silence, in small omissions, in subtle betrayals that often go unnoticed until they accumulate into something undeniable. With Ethan, it began as barely perceptible cracks, a delayed response to a question, a distracted gaze, a sudden distance in moments that had once been effortless. At first, I told myself stories to explain them: stress from his workload, fatigue from travel, the unavoidable distractions of a man navigating an equally demanding career. These explanations soothed me for a time, allowing me to preserve the image of harmony that I so desperately wanted to believe in. But the truth has a way of pushing through denial, surfacing in ways we cannot control. Soon, the cracks widened. I noticed the phone calls taken in hushed tones abruptly ended when I entered the room. I smelled the faint trace of perfume not my own clinging to his shirt. I saw the deleted messages, the small but deliberate attempts to hide something. Each clue was a whisper of betrayal, and together they grew into a chorus I could no longer silence. The moment of true awakening arrived unceremoniously, almost casually. A notification appeared on my phone, a small fragment of a conversation that Ethan had overlooked. It was vague, suggestive, not explicit, but its meaning was unmistakable. In that instant, denial dissolved. The unease I had carried silently crystallized into certainty. The man I trusted most was no longer who I thought he was. And in that revelation, I shifted. No longer a passive wife clinging to appearances, I became something else entirely. An observer, a strategist, a woman with a new mission. From that day on, I lived a double life. By daylight, I was Emma the professional, presenting campaigns, leading meetings, navigating boardrooms with composure. By evening, I was Emma the investigator, quietly gathering evidence, retracing Ethan's steps, analyzing his behavior with the precision of a strategist dissecting her rival's every move. I collected fragments, screenshots of messages, discreetly taken photographs, notes on inconsistencies in his schedule. Each piece of evidence was a small weight added to the scale, tipping it further and further toward truth. My vulnerability, once a weakness, became fuel for clarity, sharpening my instincts and strengthening my resolve. Ethan, my supposed ally, had transformed into the antagonist of my story. And then there was her, his lover. She entered not as a dramatic revelation, but as a silhouette emerging from shadows. Younger than me, effortlessly sophisticated, with a charm that disguised calculation. She was the quiet threat, a figure built on secrecy, existing in stolen moments and hidden exchanges. Her presence was not only a betrayal of intimacy, but a challenge to my intelligence. A reminder that I had been deceived not once, but continually. For months, perhaps longer. The betrayal was not just physical. It was emotional, strategic, layered in manipulation that left me both devastated and awakened. I chose not to confront him immediately. Instead, I embraced patience, understanding that timing was everything. The woman Ethan thought too naive to see through him was now the one who monitored his every move, documented every lie, and prepared for the moment when silence would no longer serve me. The restraint was not easy. It burned within me each time I heard his excuses, each time I pretended to believe. But with every act of endurance, I regained a sense of control. The weight of this secret existence was heavy, though strangely empowering. At work, my colleagues began to notice my distraction, the moments when my thoughts drifted mid-conversation. Marissa, my closest confidant at the office, asked one evening if I was okay. Her concern lingered in her voice, but I brushed it off, unwilling to let the truth spill into places where I was not yet ready to expose it. To reveal too soon would have been to lose the advantage, and advantage had become everything. Through this duality, I learned a new discipline. The discipline of silence, of observation, of restraint. My emotions, once freely given, now served a purpose. They were channeled into strategy, into preparation for the confrontation I knew must come. Every choice, every pause, every careful word was part of the plan. And in that plan, I found strength. The stage for truth had to be chosen with care. I did not want a private, messy fight behind closed doors. I wanted a confrontation that could not be twisted, one that stripped Ethan of the shadows he relied on. I chose an elegant downtown restaurant, known for its intimacy yet public enough to provide witnesses. Its low golden lights reflected off polished wood, its quiet atmosphere both refined and exposing. It was a stage where truth could not hide. I reserved the table myself, choosing the placement deliberately, far enough from the entrance to feel secluded, yet close enough to others that silence would carry. The reservation time was no accident, either. Late enough for the restaurant to fill, but early enough that attention could not be avoided. Every detail was orchestrated with precision, a choreography for revelation. As I sat waiting that evening, my mind played a reel of memories. Our first apartment, cluttered but filled with laughter. Vacations by the sea, when the world seemed ours alone. Promises whispered late at night, words I had carried as truth for years. Each memory returned not with tenderness, but with the ache of deception. They reminded me why this moment mattered, because every lie had desecrated something sacred, and because reclaiming myself meant reclaiming the narrative. When Ethan and his lover entered, their confidence struck me almost as arrogance. They moved with the ease of people who believed themselves invisible, cloaked in secrecy. To others, they looked ordinary, perhaps even charming, but I knew every detail of their deceit. I watched their gestures, the way their eyes lingered too long, the way they spoke with an ease too polished to be casual. To me, each movement screamed confirmation. I greeted them calmly, my smile measured, my voice steady. At first, I spoke lightly, weaving casual conversation into the air as though nothing unusual lingered beneath it. And then, slowly, I began to lay the foundation of truth. A reference here, a detail there, each carefully dropped like a stone into water, ripples spreading outward with calculated effect. Their eyes shifted, their hands stiffened, their voices faltered. The silence between my words became louder than any outburst could have been. The atmosphere of the restaurant thickened, invisible yet palpable. Conversations around us seemed to soften, as if instinctively the patrons sensed something significant unfolding. Strangers who had come for an elegant meal became unwilling witnesses to a drama that was both intimate and universal. The space itself became a theater, the tension cinematic in its intensity. Then, at the moment I chose, I revealed everything. Messages, photographs, records, irrefutable proof of betrayal, laid before them without theatrics, without raised voices. It was simple, undeniable, devastating. The reversal of power was instant. Ethan, once confident, sat disarmed. His lover, once radiant, now trembled under the weight of exposure. I remained calm, steady, composed. Every breath I took, every word I spoke was deliberate. This was not just the revelation of betrayal. It was the declaration of transformation. I was no longer the woman he had deceived, but the one who now held complete control. What had begun in pain culminated in empowerment. in the mastery of strategy and emotional strength. The silence that followed was profound. Their nervous movements, their faltering attempts at words, only underscored the shift. I had not merely uncovered the truth, I had redefined myself through it. For the first time, I understood that my strength did not come from avoiding pain, but from moving through it, transforming it into clarity. When they left the restaurant, I remained seated, breathing in the aftermath. The city outside awaited me, its lights alive, its streets vibrating with possibility. I stepped into the night air not as a woman abandoned, but as a woman reborn, my future no longer tethered to Ethan's choices, but shaped entirely by my own. Separation was inevitable, but it did not feel like loss. It felt like reconstruction. Every decision I made from then on was a step toward rebuilding my identity, my purpose, my autonomy. My life, once entangled with deception, now unfolded with deliberate intention. In the weeks that followed, I redirected my energy. At work, my focus sharpened. My projects flourished as I channeled my strength into creation rather than concealment. I rekindled friendships that I had neglected, discovering in them a network of support I had long underestimated. My relationships, both professional and personal, became anchored in honesty, respect, and reciprocity. The betrayal, though searing, had become the catalyst for a profound rebirth. It stripped away illusions, forcing me to confront not just Ethan's lies, but my own blind spots. Through that confrontation, I rediscovered my essence, a woman capable of resilience, strategy, and clarity. The city around me reflected this transformation. Its chaos no longer overwhelming, but invigorating. Its challenges no longer intimidating, but empowering. Ultimately, I discovered that some truths, no matter how painful, set us free in ways we cannot imagine. That night at the restaurant was not the end of my story, but its turning point. The threshold into a chapter defined not by betrayal, but by autonomy, strength, and reinvention. My journey became proof that pain can be the raw material of power, that strategy can emerge from heartbreak, and that clarity is the greatest victory. And so, I move forward deliberately, with each choice made in awareness, each relationship approached with honesty, each step grounded in the recognition of my worth. My story is not what Ethan took from me, but what I reclaimed, myself. And you, what would you do in my place? Every betrayal contains the seed of transformation. Every silence the potential for strength. Share your story, because empowerment is contagious, and every voice that rises from pain inspires another to rise as well.